So one of the discussions that has come to my attention recently started from a friend of mine by the name of Sab. Now, Sab and I did a podcast episode together over a year ago with Snebzor on the Last Poll podcast. Since then, we have stayed pretty close friends, even though he has taken a step back from the public space to focus on his community, the Gamers Haven, which is a large North America-centered Discord community with their accompanying in-game guild, Yeet, which is one of the most active guilds in the game, with 90% of players being sub 2-day offline times. I bring up Sab and his community because he asked for my opinion on what I feel is an accurate new player timeline, and since not everyone who is aware of me is aware of him, I feel this information might be better served to you guys. Now, this is not a mutual agreement. Me and Sab did not agree on our timelines, and we had a good discussion over it. So in this video, I'll be going over my ideas and reasonable expectations for players just starting the game all the way through to about 1,000 hours played. And by hours played, I mean active, intentional play, not AFK, not standing around in map chats or waiting for metas or sorting your inventory. And for those of you who have children, think of these as milestones, where if your kid isn't exactly on track, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It just might mean that you could adjust your focus to be more optimal if you wanted. Ideally, this would help you figure out where you are and give you an idea on where you would like to be moving forward. And of course, any and all feedback is welcome. So if I missed something or I was a little too lenient or a little too strict on a particular timeline, feel free to share your thoughts down below. Let's get started. We'll be starting with hour 1. The first hour of your game from a fresh account is likely going to be spent with wonder and confusion. Many of the things available in the game, like World vs. World and PvP and stuff, will be locked out entirely until you reach certain level milestones. So your focus during this should be finding the first class that you want to invest in. All classes in Guild Wars 2 are equally valid in their own right, as passable builds exist for everything. So don't focus too much on what you should play and focus more on what you like to play. This is the key. If you watch a tier list or you see a Guardian or a Mesmer and it has really good elite specs, but you create your character and you think, wow, these virtues are kind of boring, or I don't like clones a whole lot, you would be better served with trying out something different. 1 hour in game is really not a lot of time, especially when leveling or running around the starting areas. So as an extremely new player, just focus on getting to know the class that you select and the game in general. You aren't going to magically stumble across some hyper valuable item in the beginning acts of the game, but you will learn what renown hearts are, what vistas are, and what points of interest are, and how to interact with the combat system and gearing system of Guild Wars. Now, moving forward to about 30 hours played. Around this amount of time, you should either be at or approaching your first max level character. The last time I did a 0 to hero, it took me about 24 hours before reaching max level. So there is some leeway there. You should have a class that you enjoy playing and are looking forward to getting your elite specializations unlocked. At this point, you're probably looking at what expansions you want to get invested in. And really, there is no right answer. Many people will say you want to get started in Path of Fire, but each of these expansions has its own charm. My personal recommendation is that you work through the expansions in order, and that will give you the best overall story experience. You can use hero points from any expansion on any specialization. So even if you prefer the specializations from End of Dragons or Visions of Eternity, you can unlock them through doing Heart of Thorns or Corteria hero points. So don't stress on that front. There are a few honorable mentions here in terms of account progression or access. I want to talk about Secrets of the Obscure and Janthier Wilds. Secrets of the Obscure introduced weapon mastery, and Janthier Wilds introduced spears, and both are very easy and early in those campaigns to unlock, and many modern builds, meta builds, utilize these unlocks. So let's say you're interested in playing through the story in release order, however you want to work towards a meta build. I would recommend doing the first story steps of Secrets of the Obscure and then talking to Frode in Skywatch Archipelago for the Weapon Master training, which is just a talk and unlock, and then also starting Janthier Wilds and doing the Spear Master training or the mastery for allowing you to use spears. These two suggestions are far from mandatory. However, after you reach max level, unlocking a specialization and getting the proper gear and build setup is going to be your primary focus with around 30 hours of playtime. The next big milestone milestone is at 100 hours. And at 100 hours, you should have a fairly good grasp of your selected class. Likely you've worked through a good majority of the available story. You may have dove into fractals or raids. This is depending on your willingness and availability, of course, but at 100 hours, you are likely getting the hang of Guild Wars 2's gameplay loop, and you know about map metas and how to track them. You've interacted with various mastery lines, and were at least exposed to different collections, most of them being like for ascended armors and ascended trinkets and things of that nature. At 100 hours played, you may be interested in legendary weapons, or at least be aware that they exist and that you can achieve them, but you might be overwhelmed with how to achieve them. If you aren't interested in this, you may have explored SPVP or World versus World, which World versus World is required for legendary items regardless, so if you haven't tried it, it is a good place to start when working towards a legendary. But really, at 100 hours, you should have at least one build on your main class that you feel comfortable with in-game content that allows you to be competitive with other teammates, and it is under the assumption that you are properly geared. Full ascended gear should be your primary goal if you don't already have it, and you likely do have some ascended items either through various living world vendors or through the Wizard's Vault. In any case, at 100 hours, you should be comfortable developing your own endgame loop, whether it's doing map completion, doing fractals or raids, and finding a good long-term goal to work towards. I would suggest if you're at 100 hours and you're feeling a little lost, starting a single legendary item, picking one out, and working towards it is a good place to start. Now for the big one, 500 hours. The difference between an individual playing 100 hours and 500 hours might seem like a more of the same type of situation. The main distinction would be that players that have played for 500 hours likely either enjoy repetition by creating characters, leveling them, gearing them, learning builds, etc., or they are players that have found a community that they really can enjoy. The community aspect of an MMO is an important one, though in recent years I have found myself more as a solo gamer or one that just joins randoms to achieve my goal. I have been part of various communities across my thousands of hours of playtime. Some of them just died off naturally, as many online friendships do. You know, the team gets slowly disbanded over the course of various life events, or in some cases I was rejected from a group for causing friction among the culture of the guild. Both are fond stories of mine, but they are stories for another time. What I mean to say is that somewhere between hour 50 and beyond, you would be wise to try to find a community that you can be a part of that fits your playstyle, be it an in-game guild that prioritizes its communications through in-game chat, or a community like the Gamers Haven that I mentioned earlier, which more prioritizes Discord and voice chats. In Guild Wars 2, often you will have a mix of both, a World versus World group that is focused at meeting at certain times, or a raid static group that you meet up with on Discord at a specific time, or in my case, just a community of people that you talk with periodically while you're playing or doing other things. Being connected to a community will all around improve the experience, maybe exposing you to tricks that you are unaware of, or easily finding assistance with areas that you are stuck in. It can turn moments of frustration into a fun time with friends, overcoming an otherwise irritating obstacle. At the 500-hour mark, you likely have found some form of community, or if you are looking for a community, I would advise you check out the Gamers Haven if you play on NA. If you have an alternative community in mind, you are free to drop Discord links or guild recruitments in the comments section below, and you as the viewer can take a look and see if any of them appeal to you. Anything past 1,000 hours played should be kind of obvious. Either you have become comfortable with multi-classing in Guild Wars, you have found the content that resonates with you the most, and likely became a part of that community, be it a World vs. World focused community, fractals and raid static groups, or you just love exploring the buildcraft elements through learning various PvE classes, roles, and builds, or PvP classes, roles, and builds. While 1,000 hours seems like a lot of time, you can move through Guild Wars 2 quickly if you want, and on my 0 to hero count, I am poised to complete a set of raid legendary armor in just under 300 hours. The account has less than 1,000 AP, and the core map is completed, fully explored, and I have most of the critical masteries for quality of life. I've also done most tier 4s and challenge modes, with many raid CMs done as well through joining random groups. Realistically, if you play 1,000 hours of Guild Wars 2, you are good at setting and achieving your own goals, and you have found a way to enjoy the game to its fullest. At this point, you should feel comfortable calling yourself a veteran player and feel comfortable helping out newer players set their own goals or achieve what they want. And with that, I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have a community you'd like to share or your journey and experience this game, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section below. I want to thank all of my members who support the channel. And if you are new to Guild Wars 2, you can always use my referral link to support the channel if you want to purchase any of the games, because I am an Arenanet partner. Thanks again, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.